Sanbonani, good afternoon. I greet the honorable members, the MSC, and the officials from the Department of Human Settlements. May I get an indication from Mr. Numalo whether we have all the members now present? Can we start with our meeting?
Chairperson, we are only 4 members in attendance for now.
Okay, can you please indicate to me when are they likely to join? Do you know?
Let me call them.
Miss Anderson, I see your hand up.
Hi, yes, greetings. I'm from the Auditor General's office. I'm only going to be
Yes,
able
I
to attend
see.
to 1:30. We've got the AG's memorial service at 1:30 today. So I'll stay in the meeting until the memorial service. Thank you.
No, yeah, not a problem. Counting the members, but I'm tempted to start.
You need some assistance.
Chairperson, we are 5 now. Umanqanqele is trying to connect. Ube phambanisa ikhathi cabanga ukuthi u2. Kodwa siya connect.
Okay. No, it's fine. We're going to start now. I'm just getting hold of Honorable Thakuraj Bansi. Okay.
Sihlalo usesinawo 6. We do have a quorum.
Mr. Numan.
Nesto?
We have met the quorum, but
Yeah, yes. I've just indicated to Chairperson manje ngazi noma ungizwile.
okay.
Chairperson?
Okay, no problem.
Thank you, Tyra. Honorable members, good afternoon. I'm sorry about that. I was just trying to get Honorable Manuel to the meeting and Honorable Mlojo. I think we now have the quorum. We may start with our meeting. I'd like to pray as we start with our meeting. uJehova umalusi wethu asiwe swela. Baba siyabonga kakhulu emini as we start this meeting, Lord. We surrender our all. We submit, Father, under the leadership of the Holy Spirit. We pray, Father God, we're standing at the gate of the legislature, where laws are legislated. We come egameni kaKristu Jesu with all humility. We want to thank you for this day which you have made for us to rejoice. Siyakumema ngemoya engcwele in our meeting. Help us, Lord, ukwenza okwentando yakho more than our will. We pray that you will be done in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Siyabonga kakhulu. Ngiyabonga kakhulu Zwide. I think we have a Honorable Mloja now on the line. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome all of you. Welcome the honorable members. Welcome the MSC and her delegation from the Department of Human Settlements, our friends from the Auditor General. And I'd like that at this time we just observe a moment of silent prayerfully to remember the fallen hero of our democratic dispensation, our beloved Auditor General, the late Mr. Kimi Makwetu. Angazi noma ukhona yini Honorable Dube in this meeting. Okay, he's not connected. It's fine. Let's just take a moment prayerfully to remember them. Father, we bring the Makwetu family, we bring the Auditor General as an institution before you. We pray the blood of Jesus Christ, comfort of the Holy Spirit of God. Siyabonga ngomsebenzi asenzele wona. We pray that as he's departed, may his soul rest in peace. In the wonderful name of our Lord Jesus Christ, we have prayed. Amen. Siyabonga kakhulu. May we now move to item number 2, which is attendance and apologies. May I ask you, Mr. Malu, to help us with that item? Do we have apologies that we to note for this meeting?
Thank you, Chairperson. We do have apologies that has come to my with Honorable Mbatacele sent an apology, is engaged with other work. We have an apology for Honorable Kaluza, but promised to send an alternate. I'm not aware who that alternate is. We have an apology for Honorable Mazibuko. That is all from the honorable members. We also do have apologies from the legislature support team. Coordinator of this committee is just reported has been booked off sick as of now, 1:45 before we start our meeting. She's been to the doctor and booked her off sick. Sam Kudazi, budget analyst, is away with community safety in Freiheit. Monica Wilson, our legal personnel, is with finance with other meeting which is going on for now. This is all apologies that we have today. Thank you.
Siyabonga kakhulu Zwide. I see the hand of the MEC. I'll start with our MEC. MEC.
Good afternoon to you, Honorable Chairperson, and greetings to all honorable members who are in this meeting. Let me also greet all other officials who are here. Honorable Chairperson, let me also tender my apology. I was actually laboring under the impression that my PLO had submitted my apology. This week, we are hosting our Minister for Cooperative Governance as Ilembe District Political Hub. We have not yet launched our district development hub in the district of Ilembe, and the Honorable Minister, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, decided to come over from today until Friday to visit Ilembe district hub. So may I humbly apologize as she is about to be ushered in, and as the host, I must receive her because we'll be meeting with Amakosi from this district from 2 o'clock. My humble apology to you, Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable MC, the apologies welcome. Thank you very much. You are recused from this meeting. Honorable TJ Kumete. Honorable Kaluza sent the substitute in the name of Honorable Jamas. Honorable Kumete.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to tender my apologies. I just met with an emergency this morning, but I will deal with the emergency within 30 to 45 minutes and rejoin the meeting, if that will still be okay.
Not a problem, Honorable Member. Okay, no, I think all the hands have been addressed, and also Miss Wendy Anderson from the AG's office is to leave at about 13:30. Constitution of the meeting. We are correct as I go through the numbers of the members in this meeting connected to the meeting. Am I right, Mr. Numa? We are correct, ne?
Thank you, Chairperson. We do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Let's now move to item number 4. May I submit the agenda for the adoption by the members of the legislature? Any member moving for the adoption?
I move.
Thank you, Honorable Makele. Any second?
Yes, Honorable Chairperson Mlocho is seconding.
Thank you, Honorable Mlocho. We now move to the MEC's remarks. Unfortunately, the item is going to be waived.
I'm
Oh, you
still
still
here.
here, MEC?
Yes, I may make my remarks. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Bella,
You can go.
ungithinde noma ngo-WhatsApp okungcono.
I didn't hear you, Honorable Tolu.
Out of order, Mkhaya.
Honorable MEC, the floor is yours. Honorable MEC, may I appeal for order? Let's allow MEC to talk to us. Thank you, honorable members.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Again, greetings to all honorable members who are here. I don't know whether you can see me, Chairperson. I can't see myself from the side. I don't know what
No, we
happening.
can't see you. We can't see you. Please try and get your video on.
It's on. What's happening? I don't know.
No, if there's a technical problem, no, it's fine. Let's proceed.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable members, it's pleasing to note that one had a very fruitful consultative meeting with the team that was led by Ms. Mapule Mtaung from the Provincial Treasury, the chairperson of the Provincial Audit Risk Committee, which is normally referred to as PARC, was there, and the Cluster Audit Risk Committee, which is referred to as CARC, the Provincial Treasury and the Office of the Auditor General was also there. We had a very fruitful consultative engagement whereby the head of department was also there, and the main purpose was to address the issues of governance and audit outcomes in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic. They pointed at our strengths and also at our weaknesses as the department. So we are in a process of improving on some of the points that were raised by them. I hope the head of department will have time to take you through that discussion. Honorable Chairperson, I also wish to indicate that as we previously reported to you, the irregular expenditure that was incurred by the department, which came to an amount of 5.4 billion rands in the 2018-2019 financial year, and from the previous financial years was due to non-compliance with the SCM processes at municipal levels for human settlement projects. In other words, it's the municipalities that used to implement those projects. Hence, we incurred that a huge amount of irregular expenditure. And I must indicate here, Honorable Chairperson, that numerous attempts have been made in order for us to obtain all those documents from all municipalities, but we have failed. We are now making a declaration that we are failing to obtain the necessary documents which may prove for those who are auditing us that indeed we utilize the amount of money that was allocated to us. Houses are there, they are on the ground, Honorable Chairperson. We are not alleging that the amount of money that we are talking about was mal administered. But what we are saying is that we cannot retrieve the documents that are supposed to be submitted for auditing purposes. And now we are saying, no, we can't continue trying to obtain those documentations. And what we are saying, we are also indicating here is that National Treasury is considering the matter, and the plan is that as we approach the next audit, this matter will then be resolved at that level. And the department has implemented a turnaround strategy and overhauled its standard operating procedures aimed at eliminating irregular expenditure. And the department has also entered into bilateral agreements with municipalities as these projects were already in the construction stages. We still do have those projects that are still managed through the services of the municipalities. But as we move forward, we'll ensure that the department will be implementing the housing human settlements projects on its own without really procuring services from the municipalities. I must also indicate, Honorable Chairperson, that yesterday we were informed, we learned from the media. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend the previous MINMEC meeting, whereby a statement or a discussion had occurred, whereby our Honorable Minister had indicated that from now onwards, priority will be given to ensuring that service sites, or we focus on service sites as opposed to building houses. And members of the provincial legislature and members of this portfolio committee will have to support us as KwaZulu-Natal, because our approach is that we need to stick to the commitments that we have already made, that of building houses, because if we stop doing that, there will be an outcry out there. We will continuously submit proposals for deviation from the proposed policy by the minister as the KZN Provincial Department of Human Settlements, as we really strongly believe such a pronouncement once happened. I think it was in 2013, whereby the Honourable Minister had dictated that we should stop implementing the program of rectification of houses that were actually built just after the 1994 democratic dispensation, because they were not in good state. That program had to stop, and now we are having a huge backlog when it comes to that as the province of KwaZulu-Natal. We keep on submitting proposals for deviations every time when we want to review that decision. We submit deviations because we are in this setup whereby we are implementing the project on behalf of the National Department of Human Settlements when there is that concurrent function that is ongoing. I must also indicate, Honorable Chairperson, that the total revised budget allocation in 2020-2021 business plan is 3.020.057 billion rands, as we had already indicated in our previous meeting. And within this revised total budget allocation, there is that amount of 400 million rands, which was allocated for October 2017 disasters that took place, especially around eThekwini Metro, and also an amount of 446 million rands. 0.8 million rands that was ring-fenced for upgrading of informal settlements program. And regarding SHD, it has been reduced to 8.2 million rands, which equates to 10.6%. And due to budget reduction, the province had to reduce its target for units from 13,786 to 11,020. And the revised target for the annual title deeds had been reduced from 8,131 to 5,501, which equates to 2,630 in terms of title deeds reductions. The department started very late with its operations, as honorable members may be aware of that, and the focus in the third quarter. It is full of activity. Contractors are back on site. In projects are being in order for them to deliver and ensure that 100% expenditure is realized by the end of the financial year. At some stage, we received a call from the Deputy Minister, who was really concerned about our rate of expenditure, but we have managed to indicate to them that we have actually allocated, we have committed certain amounts of money to various projects that we are busy implementing in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. And with regards to devolution of properties to various municipalities, I must indicate, Honorable Chairperson, that in the coming months, we will be reporting on the extensive drive of devolving properties to municipalities that has been undertaken by the department. And this will assist the down on its rates payments and maintenance that goes with it. And currently, expenses of providing security in some areas is being experienced. We have the eThekwini Metro, but of course we are also engaging with other municipalities because we strongly believe that those parcels of land will also assist them with regards to their own planning for bigger projects, especially for human settlement projects. I must also indicate, Honorable Chairperson, that as the MEC for the Department of Human Settlements, we have been able to attend a number of consultative engagements in various districts, including the Metro, where in our limited budget with the development priorities of various communities. And this will assist in ensuring that we don't commit knowing that we don't have sufficient funds to deliver. So the agreements we reach at the end of the discussions are always very constructive, as all parties know what to expect and by which time. And the service delivery plans will be monitored for implementation and progress going forward. We are also encouraging, Honorable Chairperson, smaller municipalities in particular, like Pongolo and other small municipalities, to also look at these other policy instruments, human settlements policy instruments that we are busy implementing, like your community residential units, the social housing, and other policy instruments, because we strongly believe that if they embrace these other policy instruments, that might also assist them with regards to the revenue, because they will be benefiting from the property rates. That is all, Honorable Chairperson, that I wanted to indicate. And thank you very much for allowing me to sneak out so that I may receive the Honorable Minister. But I'm still here, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, MEC, for those wise words. May I now invite honorable members in a space of 5 to 10 minutes we can engage, so that at least by 22 Okorat we allow the MEC to exit the meeting for the other program scheduled for 14 hours today. May I see the hands of the members wanting to participate? Say something in relation to the remarks of the MEC. Honorable Manuele. Is Honorable Manuele talking to us, or he's in another meeting? Okay, MEC, if I may just ask one, I just want to appreciate you for bringing us to speed with regards to your meeting with CAR. We are jealously guarding the purse of the province, ensuring that money is utilized precisely where it is supposed to go. I'm particularly impressed that you are saying in your meeting they were able to point out to the weaknesses and strengths and the systems which the late Auditor General actually raised in his first preliminary report in terms of our systems being weak. I think he actually counted a lot of issues, including governance, oversight, IT, and our inability to trace, the leaks here and there, especially with regards to COVID-19 procurement. So I think as the Portfolio Committee will be waiting at the plan in relation to how best you want to remedy the whole issues that are not necessarily raised in your previous meeting with the CARC and the team from Treasury, but the whole basket of issues that are normally raised by the Auditor General in his audit. We are not forgetful of the fact that you have once again given us an unqualified audit opinion, but we are of the firm belief that you can move from there to a clean audit. So if you take care of those issues as raised, the issues that are raised in the report of the Auditor General, I think as the Portfolio Committee will be very much happy. I'm also very much happy that you are bringing something fresh to this meeting in relation to the irregular expenditure. We shun it. We don't like it. We don't want to be talking about irregular expenditure as legislators, because it points us to weak systems, as the Auditor General in his report had alluded. But I think on our side, as we have said, I'm happy that we are saying it is at our disposal. We are saying as the department, you have, I wouldn't necessarily say you have failed. I think you have exhausted all the available avenues and none of them has actually worked for you. And I think from our side, what we are going to commit to do is to, if the MEC and the HOD give us the list of those municipalities, is to write a friendly reminder letter to say to them, this is how we work and we are a democracy. So there are a few areas that will touch on that letter. So we'll request that the HOD provide us with a list of those municipalities which are named in the 5.4 billion irregular expenditure. I think it also helps for them to know that it is not just you as the department, but the Portfolio Committee is equally concerned. But I also think, honourable members, it's proper for us that we write to the acting chairperson of COPTA to raise our concern so that we can jointly address. I wouldn't like the department to be seen as a bully department. It's very easy for people to interpret the move of the department to become a service provider and implementing agents, so to say, as somehow a vengeance of some sort. So I wouldn't want us to venture to that because it will be very dangerous. So I think we are aware and we are not happy. Okugcina MEC, ngicabanga ukuthi what's important for me is just to get the list of those municipalities. I couldn't agree with you more in relation to the priority to build houses. I think I understand where the minister stands and where you stand also. And I think our view as the portfolio committee is that we must deliver on our promise. We are, however, cognizant of the fact that there's a need to service sites, but we can now ditch what we promised. Our promise was we are going to build houses. So let's build houses, then gradually introduce the new thing of servicing the site at a later stage. But obviously, abantu KwaZulu-Natal are not necessarily waiting for serviced sites. They are waiting for houses. So we must do that. We must be very cautious how we manage that discussion. It should not paint a picture of us and them. I was particularly touched when you said she also in 2013 dictated about the whole thing. I remember that about the stock, you know, the R293 houses and that old stock. Somehow that was put on ice, and I understand you business-wise that you have a huge backlog, and the huge backlog comes at a cost, because if had we rectified that stock in 2013, we will not be rectifying it with the amount we are putting now into the rectification process. I think for us as the legislature is just to monitor those issues which we have raised. I'm not going to say much about the land parcels devolution because we are going to look into the land. There's an item that deals with the land, you know, the strategy in relation to the land that is available to you. But we did gather from eThekwini during our visit that we have given them land, and they said they were auditing it because they didn't think it was they did not necessarily believe that that land was good for their projects. So I think at a later stage, we need to grow the way we are looking into things in relation to the kind of land we are devolving to municipalities. Because from the chairperson of eThekwini Human Settlements and Infrastructure Development, it was as if what you are giving them is not good land, hence they are deciding on their own to audit the quality of that land. I thank you very much also for raising those two issues regarding the 400 million that we had asked eThekwini in our previous meeting. We had a lot of stories regarding the disaster management. It is our view that they are not working very well sufficiently as they are supposed to be working. They are a city, a metro for that fact, you know, but their performance leaves a lot to be desired. I think that 446 million members, we must ask for the business plan in terms of how you intend upgrading the informal settlements. In the next meeting, we shall then attend to that. MEC, I am very happy with your remarks. I think if there are no other members, we'll take it that we have discussed, and then we'll allow you to exit the meeting to join Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Yeah, if there are no other issues, Minister, MEC, you are allowed to leave our meeting.
Thank you very much.
Also, when we are recused from our meeting, Ms. Anderson from Auditor General's Office.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, honorable members. May I ask
Thank you.
to show
Have a good meeting.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Can we see our agenda, Nestor?
Yes, Lord.
Study agenda.
Is it right, Lord?
We're not seeing it. I see bone. Oh, thank you very much. We are now moving to item number 6, which is the minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 30th of October. Honorable members, I want to put it on record that our coordinator did not produce the minutes for this meeting. As always, we have always had a problem with the production of the minutes. So the minutes only came this meeting, and that is against the spirit and the procedures of this house. We're not going to be entertaining the minutes because I've not seen them. I'm not even sure whether they've been quality assured and controlled by the cluster manager. So I feel really we can't deal with something that I have not necessarily looked into. However, there were resolutions which were sent to the department. I want to believe that the department was sent 2 or 3 resolutions taken in our previous meeting, even if they were submitted for the response today. I do not think it's procedural for us to deal with the resolutions of the minutes that have not necessarily been dealt with by this meeting. I'm not sure, Kwabini, did you receive the sets of the resolutions? Have you been receiving any resolutions from our coordinator?
Yeah, we received the minutes. Greetings to the honored members and also to our MEC and colleagues. We received the minutes, Madam Chair. So we've just went through them, and that's how also we're able to supply the agenda items. Yeah, we hope that we've covered all of the items that were resolved.
Okay, so the resolutions that were taken in the previous meeting were sent to you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, as part of the minutes. Yeah, it was not the action list, it was just the minutes that we went through.
Okay. No, it's fine. I will suggest that we don't deal with items 6 and 6.1 until they are done properly, as we would like them to be attended to by the department. There is a demand by sector oversight model just to produce resolutions different from the minutes. You can have the minutes, but you must also produce resolutions differently so that they come in a different metrics for ease of tracking and so forth. We'll deal with the 2 items, including all other pending resolutions and minutes of the previous meetings. We now proceed to item number 7. We are asking Mr. Zoom to take us through 7.1, which is human settlements master plan.
Thanks, Chair.
Mr. Zoom is taking us to the presentation.
Yes. Yeah, I would request Ubabu Khosa to take us through. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ashudi.
Thank you, Ashudi. Good afternoon, honorable members, colleagues. I'll try and looking through the presentation. Maybe just to start, maybe with the presentation being flighted, the whole matter of the human settlements master special plan. Maybe in a nutshell, before I get on with the presentation, just to indicate to the members that
Mr. Khosa, are you able to show your face on the video of the legislature? I'd like to see your face.
Let me try that. Oh, okay, I'm winning. Okay. Thank you, Chair. If I may proceed. Chair, just to indicate that the master plan It's a tool within the department that we use as our compass. It's a device that indicates human settlement direction. It's the instrument for our own navigation as we present the annual APP. This is on the top of this master plan. We use this as navigation. If you can move it to the next slide, slide number 2. Just to indicate that, Chair, I'll be talking to the following items. I'll be dealing with the introduction to the master plan, a little bit of background, and I'll look in the issues of settlement practice in KZN, migration, the land issues, infrastructure, accessibility, and other matters. So that will be the structure of the presentation. Okay, if we can move to the next slide, slide number 3. Chair, the first point of call, if you are doing this as a department, to tap back to the provincial growth development plan. So what you see here is the lift from the provincial growth development plan and the provincial growth development strategy. If I can draw the meeting's attention to what is indicated as strategic goals, as human settlement, we belong to number 3, that human community development, and the last one, special equity. Our master plan also is aligned with the Vision 2030, so whatever we're doing, we are subservient to this provincial development plan. Bring this context to it. We can move to the next slide. With the next slide, Chair, I'm just indicating the objectives now. I'm moving closer to the plan itself, the Human Settlement Master Plan. So the objectives of this particular plan are the one mentioned there, the whole issue of spatial transformation, combat settlement, connected settlement, integrated settlement, functional settlements, and constant application of policies. That's why we use planning assessment. And also, our approach is to look at the settlements based on their scale, from provincial, regional to local. I'll come to that quickly. And also to touch base to see if we do have the institutional capacity to deal with this, looking at our capacity and capacity of the municipalities. The next slide, Chair, is just here, just to be tabled so that I can bring this to context again. These are national policy imperatives, not specific to human settlement, but just to bring the whole context of the objectives of the 6th administration. So I just had to put this one here. Okay, then the next slide, Chair, slide number 6, is bringing back now the national priorities in terms of human settlement. And as we go through the list that you see, is most of the issues that we bring to this committee when we're discussing these matters, the matters of involving private sector in what we're doing, the transformation of the property market, the alignment, other public investment, the issue of the release of land, we'll be dealing with that later, transformation of the composition of the property industry, the issue of title deeds, and the other matters. It's just to bring the context again so that the members can appreciate that this is not in a vacuum, it's within the context of the provincial and national priorities. Okay, moving on, Chair, just to summarize the context, all of this, it comes down to these matters reflected in slide number 7, where the master plan seek to provide a vehicle for the following matters: the direction, which has the different areas that I'll be talking about, the convenient implementation of Catholic projects, the matters around affordable rental, the issues of home ownership, the issues of title deed, and all the other issues that are backbone of the matters that are being presented to the committee on an ongoing basis. So the navigation tool of all those matters that we present to the committee are based on this master plan that I'm presenting. 8. Okay, slide number 7, carry on. Okay, thank you. Chair, here I'll go quickly. This is a standard, national standard put together by CSIR in collaboration with Central Statistics. It sort of presents the hierarchy of urban centers in South Africa. So if you can look at this, you can find define the hierarchy of our urban centers in KwaZulu-Natal. So as we navigate, as we invest, we are guided by this. For instance, at a certain region level for KZN, that to be eThekwini. If you move down to city areas, there will be places like Umhlatuze and Umsunduze. Regional center, then you move into places like Newcastle, your Renkonyi, or your Alfred Duma, and so it goes. So this is the international standard, more of a geographical phenomena that is used to look at settlements and the size of settlements, and our investment follows this criteria. Moving on to the next slide, Chair. The slide number 9 is to zoom in now into the province and look at these centers that I'm talking about, so that the members can get the indication of what these cities and regional centers constitute in terms of the province. For instance, it's indicated here, the city region in KZN, which is eThekwini, constitute 3.4% of land mass area within KwaZulu-Natal. 35% of population of KwaZulu-Natal is funded in eThekwini. And in terms of gross value add in KZN, that's the economic contribution in KZN, eThekwini contributes almost 58% into the economy of KwaZulu-Natal. So as it goes, at the second level, areas like Umhlatuze and Msunduze, they contribute about 15% to the economy, and so it goes with the other urban centers. So this is just to put the hierarchy. And next to it, Chair, if you can look at the map, you can see it's indicated in colors. The dark red is where it's mostly economic active, where it's mostly urban areas. So just so that we can see what we're dealing with and direct investment where there are people and where there is economic activity. Moving on, Chair, the other matter that is important that inform our strategy in terms of master plan is to profile the demand in terms of housing backlogs. If you look at slide number 10, it looks at all the districts. It just puts in sort of a bar chart continuum to indicate the kind of backlogs that we have for each and every district. That's slide number 10. And that if it's formal dwellings in the backyard, informal dwelling in the normal informal settlements, or just a traditional a unit that needs to be replaced with the proper housing. So this is more. But we put in the form of a map. Again, the colors will indicate, and it follows the same pattern in areas of greater economic activity like eThekwini, Umsunduze, and Umhlatuze. You find that there are more backlogs, and also
Mr. Khoza, you are cutting. We are losing you now and then, so I'm not sure what's wrong. Maybe you can just move a bit.
Yeah, I'm closer to the computer. Can you hear me, Chair?
We can hear you perfectly well.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Chair, at 10, maybe the next slide, Secretariat, where I was indicating that the next slide indicates the profiling of the backlogs that you find within. That will be the next slide. All the districts, okay, and look. Areas. So the next slide again after that is talking about the same thing, but we're presenting the information in a map. Chair, I can see the slide maybe lagging behind, but I'll carry it on in the meantime. Okay, maybe. Then the next slide, I'm on slide 12. Then the next slide is where you bring everything into context of South Africa. If you can look at the map of South Africa, the Chair, the provinces with the most demand are the provinces that are driving the economy, which is KZN, Gauteng, and Western Cape. I just wanted to bring this here for the sake of the context without. Then I want to move on to the next slide, dealing with the issue of the demand now per area within the KZN province. And you can see again, it's following the same pattern. I'm on slide 13 now, Secretariat. if you look at slide 13, Chair, then you see that the most demand you find also in the metro areas of eThekwini, then in the secondary cities of Umsunduzi and Hlatuze, goes to the areas around Newcastle, Ladysmith, and Rangunyeni. So again here, in whatever navigation that I was talking about to direct investment, we need to be directed by areas of high activity. So that's why we looking into this one. Then the next slide is slide 14, the issue of migration trends and patterns. Chair, just indicates that within that map, you can see the dark green areas indicating the areas that are getting maximum people coming in to those areas. And then and so the that migration in the areas of the eThekwini region, and I think it's obvious in the most people are moving towards those areas. On the slide and scale, it covers other small to a level of places like KwaZulu. Everybody is living to the other area. This kind of migration, so it sort of tell us that you need to tread lightly. You can't be putting in most investment in the areas where people are living. You have to balance and follow where people are going. So that's why we also use migration trends to inform our investment initiatives. The next slide, Chair, that's with the issue of land, so that the community can appreciate the kind of ownership in terms of the. Again, here we have all the districts, including eThekwini, under the ownership of the IT board, and then the rest of the other land owned by the state or other. What needs to be noted, Chair, under eThekwini, out of the total land mass of it, that it's ITB. And so it goes. It's easy to assume that eThekwini is all urban, but if you look at the land mass of eThekwini, almost half of that belongs to the ITB. So going back to what was discussed by the NEC earlier on, maybe on the approach for KZN, by the very nature of the Ngonyama Trust Act, you can't produce sites in Ngonyama Trust as a department. So the only delivery that the Department of Government can produce in there are houses, because we don't need to have a title deed for that. Area of projects that are rural in nature, then if you wonder why there are a lot of rural projects in eThekwini, it's because 47% of eThekwini is actually in the ITB ownership. Just wanted to bring that into context. Then, Chair, moving closer to the issues of service delivery. For us, again, to finalize the plans, we need to know what kind of service availability in those particular areas. So the next slide indicates throughout all the districts the percentage in terms of water access by people in those districts. Obviously, you see much more access in eThekwini, then not so much in places like Kerikwana. So it's on the slide scale. So before we finalize a project in an area, let's say you go to an area like Kerikwana, you want to do an urban project, you must mindful of the fact that there are certain things that need to be in place where maybe you can't do a huge urban project because you may have problem tapping to the available water sources. So this is the information to indicate accessibility in terms of water throughout the district. The next slide is the same assessment, Chair, but it looks at the household with no. Again, the picture is even worse here. In areas like Zululand, areas like Umkhanyabuke, you can look at the graph. I'm on slide 17, Secretariat. And again here, we need to have this kind of a tool to know even if we're developing a house in the rural areas, we know that with our house, we have to maybe include a VIP because the sanitation status is that bad. Okay, then lastly on services, Chair, the slide 18, we're looking at availability of electricity. Again, covering all the districts, looking at availability. Again, we need this information before we can move on and do a bigger project on the area. So we need to have this information. And this information is revised every time we get fresh information from central statistics or those community surveys. With all this information that we have, how this master plan guides us. So to institutionalize what for gazetting, future business plan can be directed according to our plan. So on the 15th of May this year, the national 22 human settlement priority areas within the province. I'll deal with that quickly. And the whole underpinning principles of these areas is these areas, we need to invest in these areas to promote the issue of special justice, special efficiency, issues of connectivity, all the issues I was making reference to, Chair, when I started with the presentation. And Chair, just to put into context again, this is only a tool to direct the programs, and the only tool that we use to implement and monitor these programs is work done in terms of those APPs is riding on the back of this master plan. The master plan is showing that direction. Then the next slide, slide 20, that's the list, Chair, and priority housing development areas as declared by the minister. And if you can look at the list of our projects, you'll find that most of the bigger projects, most of the investment is directed to those areas as directed by this master plan. So there are 22 within eThekwini, iLembe, King Xexwayo, Umfundo, Tugela, Umkhanyakude, Ubu, Zululand, Amajuba, and Herikwala districts. So we have this specific project within those areas. And this is the direction that we'll be following going forward. And finally, Chair, just to keep check on reality, at the previous meeting, there was a presentation on the issue of the developer status. It will be important for us to, in order to achieve what we've just discussed here, to implement that decision. Just again, just to put it as part of the conclusion, to remind the committee members that by and large, on average, we're still dealing with those issues at municipality where the professional staff is still adequate. Alignment of their plans is still a challenge. Measures that I mentioned on slide 21 issue, but by the decision, provincial decision,
Mr. Khoza, we've lost you. Mr. Khoza.
Chair? Yes,
Chair. We lost you. We really battled hearing you. You were breaking throughout. Are you done now? You the very last line, slide 21. Are you done? Thank you. Although I'm not hearing you, I think you have muted yourself, but I take it that you're done. I saw slide 21.
I was on 21, Chair, yes, I will confirm that. Thanks.
Okay. Honorable members, that is the presentation by the department. I'm calling for the members wanting to discuss and probably get clear understanding. Are there any hands for discussion, honorable members? This is a very instrument tool developed for the whole value chain, and I think we may want to have our colleagues from COPTA, workshopping themselves, because the bulk is on the municipalities. Honorable members, any
Chair.
Honorable Dube.
Thank you very much, Chair. And also, I must apologize. I'm on the way, so the is not very convenient. nami bethi kungilahlekela kancane umkhathini kodwa ke I did hear a lot of the presentation that he was making. It's not much of a question, but it's the important part of implementation, and one must appreciate because I look at it as a dashboard that is going to be assisting us in doing our oversight work. And that I think there is much comprehensive work that has been done, and we must really appreciate the department. I do not have a document at the moment. Not it was. I'm going to print it also to look at it. There are things that one would comment about when I've looked also at the document itself. But I just wanted to appreciate the document. It is very innovative and it's very progressive. It will assist us if we are going to stick on what has been planned here. I think we are going to make a good mileage. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for the contribution, Honourable Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, no, I also think it's a very good report. So let me just get on the camera. My only question is regarding the statistics and the maps regarding migration and how it affects our service delivery in the Human Settlements Department. Did that also take in mind interprovincial migration? So migration from other provinces is to KZN, and I'm thinking especially, I think we know about the Eastern Cape into KZN, but there might be other migration as well. So has that been taken into consideration, and how does that then impact on our service delivery and housing provisions to the people? Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Mayor. Any other member? You can lower your hand, Honourable Mayor. Can I ask about the DDM? I know we are talking a lot about DDM, and I'd like to know how have you endeavored to workshop this with your colleagues from the municipality so that at least there's a buy-in. I'm particularly perturbed. I look into the slide, a lot of land, about 63% of the land and 70% of both King Etwayo and Ilembe belongs to the ITB. Not that that is a bad thing, but I'm looking at how we can navigate so that we're not hamstrung by the traditional authorities. So I just want, that is my first question. How are you workshopping it through the DDM structures, including the traditional leaders and property owners and other business people? I think your first slide was spot on. Let me just quickly get that slide. No, it's not the first slide. The National Strategic Priorities for 2019 to 2020-24 of the MTSF are talking about us working closely with the private sector to develop major development projects to bring together economic nodes. I think that is very important. But then it can't just be like this. There must be a way where you are workshopping your business allies in relation to the plan, as it were. I would have loved to see the milestones and time frames. When are you wanting to deal with a whole host of other issues? You are talking about the issues of electricity, and Honourable Mayor has touched on issues of migration. I think for me, the document is very well encompassing. It's a very good thought and idea. The taste of the pudding obviously is in its eating. So we are waiting for the implementation. I think for us, it's important that you show us short-term goals, how you want to at short-term achieve A, B, C, and Z, and go to your medium term, the long term, because we know that this is not only dependent on human settlements as a department, but it also dependent on a whole lot of other factors, exterior and internal issues. So I think that is very important that the document have an an appendix showing, those timelines and milestones. What is it that you want to achieve in the next 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years? There was another question I wanted to raise from your presentation. No, it's fine. Let me leave it, Mr. Khoza, because I didn't highlight it. So if I get it again, I'll go back to you and ask the question, because I think it's very important for me to ask. Mr. Khoza, you can come in now with the responses.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Chair, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're hearing you. Though you are cutting, but we are hearing you. Honorable Tulu's hand is up. Just hold on, Mkhatini. Honorable Tulu.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to honorable members and our officials. Mhlambe usihlalo khona gcine esekuthatha le time frames again. I think your project context lapha ku bullet number is it number 4? Le release of land at the disposal of the state for site and services to afford households opportunities their own homes. As most of the time what we write as reports and all that looks very good, but if it's not going to be implemented, it becomes incwadi nje ebhaliwe bese kuphelele lapha. If we can do all this, and then also the next bullet that talks about transform the composition and functioning of the property industry. Are we doing that? Because at times we tend to do these things, in la phansi, but mase kumele sizenze. I'm not sure noma siyasaba. If you can do and then maybe come up with time frames ukuthi loku we are expecting ukuthi mhlambe by this time bese sikwazile ukwenza. Issue ama-title deeds, I'm sure in every meeting esinayo una same issue. So ke ngiyofuna mhlambe ngelinye ilanga ke nisitshele ukuthi enambe kangakanani, and then asiwafakeli laba time frames. I think sizohlala sikhuluma ngawo njalo lento yama time frames ukuthi ke sizenze lezi zinto zikwazi ukuphela. Nawazi ukuzikhuluma kanje, they're looking very good now on paper, but practically it becomes a problem because you have to see these things. So I mean, nje report, I fully support it, but provided it's going to be implemented.
Thank you very much, Honorable Tulu. My question was in relation to the municipalities. I remember in the previous meeting, the MSC and the department showed us those municipalities we intending to take away the developer status power, so to say. I was just wondering, from the set of municipalities which I see on slide 20, have you already sort of removed those municipalities? Because in my own view, I'm not sure, maybe it's a wrong context. In my own view, they do not already, they've lost an opportunity to work along the master human settlements plan. I could be understanding it differently, but I just want to be sure that those municipalities are not there, or if they are there, then you can just let me why you have kept them, whereas you have said to us they don't have capacity. We are removing the powers, so to say. And the other issue, I'm happy that this matter, honorable members, is reported on the annual report. We may have not necessarily been very pertinent with the matters in the APP of the department, but there are some of the issues in the master plan are in the APP. And if they were not, they were going to ask the department that in the next APP you factor in those issues. I think that is what was escaping me earlier on, Mr. Khoza. You can now respond.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, if I maybe just try to go through the issues raised by honorable members. Matter raised by Honorable Mayor on migration, interprovincial Yes, we did look into that. I think what one needs to do, as maybe there is anyway a request from the committee to have follow-up reports on progress and milestone, maybe we'll make available the actual report, because this is just a high-level presentation where we're looking at people coming from the Eastern Cape to KZN, Gauteng, and so forth. Maybe they will not get into that. Maybe we'll just have to make that information available in the near future of how it's affecting the province. Obviously, again, as people coming from other provinces, they will target Tigui, Msundus, and Chatus, and those kind of areas. But the information was considered and is available. We'll try and put it together and make it available to the committee members in due course. Putting this together was in the year 1780, and it took us just over 12 months when we were going around.
We lost.
Working with. Chair, can you still hear me?
We hear you now, but we lost you for about 45 minutes, 45 seconds.
Okay, Chair, okay. I'm glad if I'm back. Just to indicate, Chair, that in putting together this plan, we were working with municipality. It was a project that took almost a year during 1780. Then on annual basis, we constantly update it on every year. As you can see now, I was making reference to a decision taken by the minister either this year. So we keep on refreshing this. We'll be doing this until 2030. But the municipalities are involved. And one of the most important aspects of involving municipality was to make sure that their spatial development framework is in line with this plan. So this plan is talking to their plans in terms of human settlement and vice versa. Chair, the issue raised in terms of the implementation schedule. On the issue of developer status, Chair, I can indicate, even though it's the other matter, that the developer status was brought into focus because there were governance weaknesses. So even in the areas where the developer status has been taken away, we don't kill the project. We just take over the project and make all the decisions from the provincial setup. So looking at those areas targeted, if there are projects, what we've done, we've taken over the appointment of service provider, the management and overseeing of the project, but we don't allow a situation where the need is not addressed. It's just that the municipality has less say in actual the nitty-gritties of the project. They just do the municipal function and we take over the running of the project and appointment of service provider. So maybe that's the difference. We don't kill the project, we just take it over. Chair, if I can indicate that. The issue raised by Honorable Kulu on the land release, maybe in future. Also, in future, Chair, maybe get given an opportunity, you can make that information available. And all those other areas, the Honorable Kulu make reference to transportation of party market, issue of title deed. I think as part of the resolution from the committee will be directed and will provide the information in future meetings. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Khoza, thank you very much. We really battled hearing you and now and then, but it's fine. We will rely on our recording. And I think there's just one issue which I'd like us to resolve upon is the issue of the progress report on the actual implementation of the aspirations of the master plan that you want to keep an eye on, which will be talking to the milestones and set timelines. I'm grateful for the responses to Honorable Kulu's question, Mayor, and Dube's comments. Mr. Khoza, thank you very much. So we now move to the other item. May I see the agenda, Nestor? We move to the item on the radical economic transformation plans in the department.
Thanks, Chair. We'll request to Mr. Ndlozi if we can be allowed to upload, to have access to upload the presentation, Madam. Thanks.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
no, he's already uploaded it. No, thanks. Okay.
Yes. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, honorable members of the KZN Legislature, honorable MEC, yes, and the HOD and colleagues. My name is Ndlozi, and I'm here to make a presentation on radical economic transformation programs that the department is undertaking to ensure that we empower companies of designated groups. Can we move to slide 2? In terms of the presentation, these are the matters I'll be tabling before your meeting, Chair. We'll look at the enabling legislation, which I think is very important given the
Mr. Ndlozi?
Yes, Chair.
We have lost you, sir. We lost you. You are still talking about the Act of Parliament or the law that supports what you are doing.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
We hear you now, sir. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Chair. Enabling legislation, because all our programs that we are doing are guided by the legislation, which I think is really pivotal now given the recent court ruling. Also the objectives that we're trying to achieve as a department in line with the guiding framework in terms of Operation Vula, the pillars of RET, and then look at the value chain, because whatever we do, we need to look at how, as a department, we are structured, and then factor the programs into that, and then outline the programs that we've devised as a department to ensure that we achieve this, and some of the challenges and interventions that we've undertaken as a department. Next slide, please. In terms of the enabling legislations, Chair, we just wanted to indicate, especially after the court ruling 2 weeks ago, that the programs that we've devised I think the slide has moved. But I wanted to say it's guided by the practice notes of it confirms that as departments, we can identify projects which we feel in nature can yield or can lead to the development of emerging businesses or contractors. And also, as part of the empowerment program, we can then allocate some portion of our budgets to ensure that some of the budget goes towards the empowerment of emerging businesses that would obviously had undergone some SEM process for screening and things as such. And also then we can then award projects through a contractor development program that we would have developed to ensure that we empower those companies. There's also the practice instruction note 3 of 2016 and 17, which says that we can apply for a deviation from normal procurement processes in terms of the paragraph 8.5 of the instruction note for the allocation of work for companies that would be in the contractor development program. And also there's the SCM practice note 3 of 2003, which says you can establish a panel of approved service providers, which will then fall into that contractor development program. And also, Chair, in terms of the, I'm on the next slide, in terms of the Preferential Procurement Act of 2017, you have Regulation 4, which qualification criteria, and Regulation 9 on compulsory subcontracting, and also the policy by the department, which says that in our bids or quotation, we can include an element of enterprise development to ensure that we achieve the objectives of economic empowerment. Chair, we have, as a department, as I said, we are looking at what is happening elsewhere in terms of the policy guidelines and some of the overarching objectives of RET are listed there as promoting social and economic transformation in the human settlements value chain, optimizing the participation of designated groups, which include the different groups as prescribed by the regulation of 2017, contributing to accelerate human settlements delivery by engagement of these groups, and setting to set and achieve organizational transformation objectives, and to develop also mechanisms that are effective for implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. But obviously, we had to then develop particular objectives in terms of RET, which really looks at what constitutes a contractor development program. And some of the objectives that we've agreed on as a department is that as part of the contractor development program, what we want to do is to improve the grading status of contractors in the targeted categories and grades, increase the number of Black women, disabled, and youth-owned companies, ensure that we improve the performance of these contractors in terms of quality employment practice, skills development, safety, health, and the environment, and obviously then improve the soft skills in terms of business management and technical skills of these contractors. And I think in the main, their chair is to just say that we
Mr. Nhlonzi, we are not hearing you now. We've lost you.
Okay. Can you hear me now, Chair?
Yes, we hear you. We are advised by the IT people that during the day, network connections do dip, what is important, and they advise you for the future that you either work from your Wi-Fi or your data, because in the offices, because it's overloaded, so it dips, and we are really bearing the brunt today. Receiving and proceed.
No, thanks, Chair. I think the point, can you hear me now before I continue?
We hear you. We hear. I'll tell you
Okay.
if there's a problem. Thank you.
All right, thanks. The point I was making, Chair, was to say that we do not, as a department, want to focus only on the provision of through the allocation of work. We also want through and capacity building. We also focus on the skills. That is the of things where the businesses that we want to support as a department can grow and be resilient in the near future. And then in the next slide, we obviously then look at the pillars of radical economic transformation, and these are adopted in line with the Operation Vula framework, just to indicate that our RET programs are not only focused on contractor development, but we also want to look at issues of incubation and mentorship, and I'll illustrate this in the next slides. There's also the issue of construction material and equipment, supplier support, distribution, and logistics, and also more importantly, the issue of emerging professionals in the built environment sector. And obviously, with all these pillars, we then feel that if we can achieve all this, we then would have contributed to human settlements. In terms of the value chains, Chair, we obviously have key for construction services, material supply, construction, and also the maintenance of CRUs and social housing. Maybe just to mention here, Chair, that contractor development program, and also now we move into the space of material supply. As it was presented before, that we are trying to finalize the material supply strategy. Moving to the next slide, we have now the programs, and in terms of the programs, Chair, we are working on 3 key programs that we've devised as a department. We have, in terms of incubation and mentorship, what we've called a program we've called Siaka Incubation Program. And as I said, we are now moving to supply a space where, as a department, we are finalizing a material supply strategy, which will obviously guide how we bring the material suppliers and manufacturers into the space. And then from the SCM point of view, we've also devised a number of panels where in those panels we then effected the prescripts that are aligned to empowerment of designated groups. In terms, and then I'm in the next slide, Chair, in terms of the Siaka Incubation Program, just to share, Chair and honorable members, that we last year we went through all the districts. Obviously, in terms of the district development model, we felt that it was important that we go through all the districts to talk to the potential emerging businesses in those districts and make this mentorship and incubation program known to them. We then, in those districts, had these compulsory briefing sessions where we're telling them about the intention of the program, and then we finalized that, which went through an expression of interest, and the interested companies then responded to that, which we then finalized sometime early this year. And I'm on the next slide, and just to share in terms of initially, plan that we'll finish this by March 20. Obviously, because of the COVID-19, we could not finalize that. When we went back after the regulations were eased, we then had a specific BEC that looked at all the approximately 1,200 applications that came through, went through all the applications, and the report was then recommended to the bid adjudication committee, which of November, and we are awaiting the outcome of the bid adjudication, where if then all the successful potential companies would be published in either newspapers or e-tender, so that they would then know that they've been successful and they are included into the incubation program. We are hoping all that process of approval and advertisement before end of this month, so that at least by early December we start with the implementation of the program. And also maybe just to share that during the evaluation, what we realized, Chair, was that as much as we went through all the districts, there were some of the districts where really the number of compliant companies was really low. And as a result, when the final outcome comes out, you will note that only a handful of companies
Lost again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear now.
Okay. Thanks, Chair. I was just making a point that there are some of during the evaluations, we realized that there were a handful of companies that were compliant. And we've taken a decision that what we will do through housing consumer education program, we will convene consultative engagements where we will go through to all these districts and have consultative sessions on what are the minimum requirements for companies to operate within the built environment sector. I'm moving to the next slide, Chair. In terms of business training and capacity building, what we're doing as a department, as I said earlier, is that we are not only focusing on building technical skills, but we also want to build the soft skills of companies. So as part of that, we want to get to procure services of training providers who will assist us with the business training and capacity building of the companies who would be involved or included in the incubation program. In terms of the second RET program, in terms of the material supply, what one can present or give progress in this is that we strategy, Chair, which would obviously assist us in terms of identifying the manufacturers, the material manufacturers, and the material suppliers that are available in the space. We started by doing, in terms of the program, is start by drafting a material supply strategy, which is now at the, we have the second draft of the strategy, and we are soliciting input from different stakeholders that we're working with, ATIA and other. And we are hoping that either end of this month or early December, we can finalize the strategy so that we can begin with the process of identifying the material manufacturers and suppliers. The process of identification of the manufacturers would obviously be an open process where we then put out a call of expression of interest, and whoever is interested in being a manufacturer or a material supplier would then respond to that expression of interest, and they will go through a process of being evaluated and finally be in the panel of that. In the next slide, Chair, we just wanted to share some of the preliminary findings of the strategy, that it is really based on the what we call the offtake agreements. So how it happens is that as a department, our budget in the next issue the offtake agreements to obviously establish material manufacturers who then and would then have a requirement that they procure from the transformed material suppliers, and then they list the value chain and the imaging, or I would say one-man show, where maybe a guy would be manufacturing door frames, but really at a small scale. And over time, then we are hoping that scale, those guys would gradually develop to being material suppliers that are compliant and can supply at a much more bigger scale. And then in terms of the procurement through panels, I'm on the next slide. We have embarked on a process to overhaul our procurement process, where we are working on the panels. And in the panels, we now, or in our bids, we now have a stipulation which have preconditions, where companies that are 51% owned by women or youth, or black male and military veterans, are then given, I would say, a preference in terms of our procurement. And you can see that through that we've managed to
Sorry, Mr.
procure.
Nkonzi, may I ask Nestor to show us the next slide, please?
Okay.
Slide 15, Nestor.
Yes, Chair.
Or maybe he's not in his workstation, but there's a slide that he's talking to, slide 15 now.
I'm on slide 16, Chair, on procurement through.
Yes, that's what I'm asking Nestor to beam for us.
Oh, yes. Thanks, Chair.
On slide 16, Chair.
Show us slide 15, 1-5, Nestor. You can proceed so long, Mr. Nkonzi.
Sorry,
Okay.
Chair. Is
So
he on slide?
I beg your pardon?
Bengibuza usihlalo ukuthi ngabe slide 15 or slide 16, because I thought he's talking about slide 16.
yes, I'm on slide 16 on procurement through panels. Chair.
Thank you. Let's go to that slide, slide 16.
Yes. So yeah, I was making a point that in our bids now, what we do as a department is that we have the preconditions where we prescribe that the companies must be 51% owned by women or youth, or people with disabilities and military veterans, and also that the bidder must, for obviously contract with values over 30 million, must subcontract 30% of that work to either an EME or QSE, which is at least, again, 51% owned by black people who are youth, women, or people with disabilities. And through that procurement drive, Chair, we've managed to, I would say, appoint over 58 companies that satisfy those preconditions in terms of the contractors which are doing top structures in grade 2 and 5, also contractors who are doing top structures within the grades of 6 and 9, and also service providers that are undertaking pre-feasibility studies and feasibility studies and planning works for various projects, and also the material suppliers who are dealing with disasters in the entire province. And then in the next slide, in terms of challenges, Chair, I did indicate some of this, that our process to finalize the incubation program and the material supply strategy was prevented by the national lockdown regulations, but obviously what we did was that after the regulations were sort of eased, we then had a special PEC which looked at all the companies that had applied to be part of the SIACA incubation program. And also we are now at the stage where we are looking at the second stage of the material supply strategy. Next slide. There's also an issue in terms of legal challenges now, Chair, as I indicated that there is a court ruling and that has challenged the PPPFA regulations of 2017. And just to mention that all our programs that have been presented here were developed in line with the regulations or the prescripts of the regulation 2017. So as much as the court has set aside the order, one is really hesitant and hoping that we will be allowed to continue with these programs. As I said, you will see that it repeals Regulation 4 and Regulation 9, and obviously those are the regulations we've used in terms of the pre-qualification criteria and subcontracting, and also designing or developing the contractor development program. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ntlonzi, for the presentation. Honorable members, may I see the hands of those wanting to comment on the presentation?
Honorable, I seem to have a problem, what I'm telling note, Honorable Mjali.
Yeah, Honorable Mjali. Honorable Poole, I note you. Honorable Mjali, you can come in first.
Thanks, Slalo. One welcomes the presentation, and I must insist, Chair, that you know, it is a very good presentation, HOD, and manyikinga ngizange sasibona isibongo sensizo bipresenta kodwa ngizolita igama layo ngathi umduduzi nayo noma umuntu manje bipresenta under HOD.
Mr. Ntlonzi.
Oh, okay. For me, Chair, this speaks directly to what we've been raising in terms of the transformation within the human settlement industry, but also the overall participation within our economy, especially for young people. Now, what I would wanted to check is that, you know, when we're speaking about the issue of value chain and the idea of the manufacturing and all of those things that speaks to the issue of value chain and the panel thereof, I think for me, it will be a game changer in the sense that last time, Slalo, you'll remember that we once got a report that was telling us that, in fact, most of the budget goes through or goes to the material. And if then we're going to bring more young people to that structure, it is going to assist, because by the time the house is completed, it means many young people would have benefited. And it means, therefore, there will be more jobs created, but also will make young people to be their own liberators. It means then we are going to move away from this thing where a big company will take a bulk of the material on the basis of them being big role players because of the number of years that they've been there. But while they are still not able to translate it to benefit blacks and Africans and blacks in general, as what we are trying to advance in the main. So I think for me, I would say HOD, rather than let's have time frames, because this good initiative, my worry is that if it's still going to be finalized soon, it means you might find yourself that these people might not be able to benefit fully for the financial year of 2020, of 2019, 2020. And what does it mean in terms of them completing the process? Now, we've been saying, Chair, we want to see young people participating within the economy of our country and of our province. And this hits directly to them, because if you will have these young people, most of them who are qualified, instead of being job seekers, but rather being job creators by being the one who manufacture, whether we are speaking on windows, whether we are speaking on door frames, whether we are speaking on blocks and all of those things, it then tells you that it will go a long way to address what we've been complaining about with regards to the issue of unemployment. But the fourth element within it, it's the one that I think I appreciated, the one that of compliant. And I think the report says that it's the Department of Human Settlement that will assist them in bringing these compliant structures, whether you're SAP, South African Bureau Standard, or whether you're NHBRC. Why I'm saying that? Some of the challenges we've been facing that locks our people outside from strategic sectors, it is the same regulations that are driven by some boards that are dominated by, in the main, white old people who close the space because the requirement for compliant, they become practically impossible for a black-owned company to adhere to it. Now, when you are saying you are bringing these sectors, it means even the Department of Human Settlement will be able to say, on our own as a department also, these are key fundamental compliance requirements that we think should be a standard, while the standard is being targeted and viewed in line with the South African Bureau Standard and the NHBRC. So that for me will seriously go a long way, Chair. But what I could not get, probably because the network was giving me trouble also, is the issue that is saying, how does the department plan? Because not everyone, you'll find a company, that a manufacturing company that will have the resources, but might not have all the necessary equipment because it's only starting now. How is the department going to assist, whether by letters of intent, which confirm that this particular company is going to be getting work, as a confirmation of the market that is available for it, so that some companies, especially black-owned youth companies, they are able to get the necessary bigger equipment that makes them to be able to produce or manufacture in bulk. So that's what I would want to get clarity on, and the coordination between the human settlement, your ATR in the main Itala Bank, for an example, as to how is it going to be having a link. But I'm in full agreement with the report, and I can't wait for it to be implemented, because it is really going to be a game changer. Just emphasizing the issues of time frame HOD, because they become critical for us in understanding that where we come from. But this is really, must really be applauded, provided it's implemented in connection with some of the things that we're raising, that you should be able to look at them. Otherwise, in the near future, Chair, we will be speaking about the committee that we once set on that endorsed a very revolutionary policy that these companies will become amongst the biggest companies in South Africa who are manufacturers and who are able to have been grow within the industry, led by young people. That will be my submission, Chair. Thanks.
Honorable Kulu.
Thank you, Chair. Mhlambe, let's also appreciate the presentation. I agree with what the previous honorable member have just spoken about these issues here. But for me, what I want to check also on the subcontracting matter, the issue of subcontracting and this 30%, I believe it's one of those things that have caused us a lot of challenges, especially on the issues of because to me, it seems to be coming, what are the mechanisms that are there to monitor the 30% issue, one. and two, nokuthi that 30% uthola abantu abafanelekile yini na, because if you look at it, most of these big contracts, ayama because the issue of 30% has not been monitored properly. Then isigcina yes affect ekuthenini i-project ingakwazi ukuqhubeka on time. Then for me, I want to hear ukuthi ikhona yini i-mechanism to monitor ukuthi. I know in one of the slides here, it talks about the contractor who decides who is the subcontractor. To me, I see a loophole on that. But also, I'm a bit worried. I agree. Supplier material. But also, in a loophole to me, who end up as citizens our previously disadvantaged communities. Yet, the same money will go back to those big companies. Law end up a total change. How do we monitor? What is that are we doing to assist these small companies? Now, was cooler because ekugcina one and the same people. Because law ongenayo uzoba supplier, yes, but thinking still it's samele ayelapa ya kule wholesaler. What is that do we have? I heard what you talk about Intoga DTI to assist. It's another challenge. DTI in most years into zakhe, our small and coming companies, the criteria DTI abaning by fail. What is that are we doing to correct some of those things? I know we are not in charge of DTI, but lega DTI, it's a very serious thing. Most we are lapaya for them to get that funding, it's another problem. So, I'll propose let's create some sort of a transparency. When project 20, how many small companies that have benefited in those projects? Because at times, you will find uma project amaninga human settlement, it's either one and the same companies are benefiting, and then bese uthola ukuthi kwesinye isikhathi u-30% awunikwanga muntu at all. Bese kule kuvumbuka labantu abahlali bebangemsindo all the time. Ingawo namanje ngizobuza khona futhi monitoring ukuthi do we go back and monitor ukuthi the 30% has been issued and is it correct, and then also is support the small company unayo yini, because on paper nama I agree it look very good, but thinking again that monitoring sesikwenzileke. Do we monitor that? Because some companies are very rude to those small companies. Kodwa mase kube khona that monitoring from the department side, I think ngakwazi ukusebenzeka. Where is this one? Yeah, I would love that report ezothi kuma project 5, it doesn't have to be amagama per se. Kodwa nje kube ukuthi ama companies asorry amangaka, ama small emerging companies have benefited on this. Because so lesikhuluma kanti mhlawumbe akho umuntu obenefitayo. Now kule useyiyona futhi iyona le supply material. Again bengifuna ukuchecka le monitoring ukuthi ne monitor yini ukuthi material izophuma kubani, ngoba ekugcineni by doing this it's a good idea, but if it's not monitored uzogcina ucreate into ye fronting where when ucabanga ukuthi you are creating new business people abazoqhamuka from the youth or women, but to end up uba nabantu abasogcina bebizwa ngo 30% or 10%, but yet they did not learn anything because they were just given those things and then babuyisela eceleni. Akukho lokubona bazokufunda kuleyo nto ezobenzwa lapho. I'm still talking about the issue of monitoring when we do those things. I will also be very interested to see your strategy when it comes to these things of monitoring. I would love to see your strategy going forward. Where is this one now? Yeah, you know, kumina mhlawumbe kumele mhlawumbe ke sibuke ikhona into ke creator u-Etia when uComrade Premier, our Premier when he was MEC waka Etia, when it was talking about the issues of bulk buying. Don't you think, Gutentambe, we look at such things where we go on to that bulk buying for these small companies to supply the material? Because if this is not monitored properly, who's will end up a fruitless exercise, because the same money will be going back to kulababa and to vela hungry instead of benefiting the upcoming subcontractors. Yabongla.
For the questions, thank you, Honorable Kuhn. Maybe let me also build on the monitoring and the evaluation of the success of this RET programs as you have proposed. I think I'm also concerned in terms of how we're going to ensure that there is no fronting, because in most cases you think that you are proposing transformation, and you find out at a later stage that you were really taking money back to the very people that had money, that were benefiting during the apartheid regime. But I also wanted to check on the pillars. There's something very interesting that struck me about the pillars on slide 7. Yes, the pillars. I wanted to find out because there is an indication that you are also calling for people who are going to be supporting you in realizing each of the pillars in terms of the workshopping, mentorship, and incubation. Just this one about the emerging professionals in built environment. It always occurs when departments come before the legislature. Department of Health will say we don't have that skill. It looks to me we are not yet ready in transforming our education to ensure that where we are heading to, we also inform the Department of Education in relation to policy transformation. Because if we are now talking radical economic transformation, it means your education must follow suit. So my question was, how are you going to invest into the success of the Pillar 6? And also in relation to what Honorable Mtshali asked earlier on, approaching it. I see a whole of synergies, value chain here with our DFIs, which we have in the land. And I am not sure how have you canvassed them to ensure that the pillars, as I look into them, they are just not going to succeed without you putting money into their success. So my question is twofold: whether you have budgeted for the contractor development, workshopping, and the incubation and mentorship. Aren't you thinking about not only Tala, there are a lot of other DFIs where we can draw support in relation to the RET policy? What other DFIs are you intending to approach in relation to the aspirations of the RET? That would be my last question, Mr. Ndlozi. Any other member? Am I closing anyone out? Okay, all the members have asked their questions. I think Mr. Ndlozi, please come in.
No, thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Salo, and thank you to the honorable members who have raised some of the questions and input. I think what is encouraging is the fact that we are obviously in sync and our efforts are correct. So I think that's positive. Maybe to start with some of the inputs and questions from Honorable Mtshali. I think our points of departure as a department was to say that the issue of just wanting to empower businesses when we do not have them into our operation is obviously haphazard and it does not work well. So it was for that reason that we then went out, looked for the emerging companies that are there through a fair and transparent process, and then those who who met the minimum requirements, they then went through the process. It is the same process that we also want to do in terms of the material suppliers or manufacturers, to say that we want to go out and look at those that are out there existing. And obviously, I think what we need to appreciate in terms of the material supply space is that it is a space that I don't think as the professionals in the built environment really understand well. And I will make an example of this, because you find that there are material suppliers who are close and then work in the space, but also there are those who are still potential. I would say, someone who is doing maybe 5 or 6 door frames somewhere in Umkhanyakude would not necessarily benefit if we put out a stringent program in terms of the material supply. So we need to make it to be a two-pronged approach where we look at those who are really far from being compliant and those who are closer to compliance and those who are compliant, so that we are able, through training and capacity building, build those who still need to be compliant and make them compliant. And those who are compliant, you can then start linking them up in terms of the projects that we have, so that they can supply in those. I think obviously the most pertinent issue raised by Honorable Mjalo was the issue of timeframes, to say that we do want to finalize the strategy end of this month or by mid-December. That's why I said early December, because, Chair, it is the strategy that will guide us in terms of how we go out and identify these material manufacturers and material suppliers. I think what is important is to identify them, and I'm now answering the issue of how do we want to do we have a plan in terms of developing these companies through the letters of intent or something of the sort. That once we have the list of these manufacturers, we can then have a business assessment. We can go through a business assessment exercise to determine which ones are at the stage where they still need really a focused approach in terms of training and development, which ones are close to being developed or compliant, and which ones are compliant. And in that case, we would then focus our energy on those who are far from compliance by either. So what we've been doing, there's also, maybe to share, there is also, and now I'm also answering the question raised by the chair in terms of the DFIs. We are working closely with the National Housing Finance Corporation, which is also looking at the material supply space. And some of the recommendations or proposals that we make in the material supply strategy emanate from the work that is done by the National Housing Finance Corporation. And what the engagements that we've had was that because they have engaged DFI such as APSA and mostly APSA. Whatever we are now suggesting in our strategy is also finding expression with APSA, because they also have their own empowerment program where they've set out funds in terms of business development. So once all the strategies have been finalized, one would then hope that those financial resources could also be invested into the program. But also, I think maybe we need to check, because our space is a very technical space, Chair. So when we say business incubation and mentorship, we are largely focusing on the training of companies so that they are compliant. So I'll make an example. if a company does not have, let's say, NHBRC, we can then bring in NHBRC to have those training. So and tell the companies what is it that they need to ensure that they are registered and they are compliant. But also information sharing sessions in terms of how do you go about, the issue of even filling in the bid documents to ensure that, it is compliant, because even with the expression of interest, lots of companies could not go through because they could not fill in the application form correctly. So things such as that, and also the cash flow projections and financial resources, those are all trainings that we want to focus on to ensure that the companies understand how the human settlement space works. And I think in cases where there's a strong business case and the company can illustrate, because sometimes we do visit the companies that are out there to look at what they are saying to us. If there's a strong business case that we should be supporting them and they can identify to us that we are operating in this space and we need support in terms of the department saying they want to give either a letter of intent, I think that is something that can be explored if there's a strong case that it is as such. To questions or input by Honorable Kulu, I think some of the questions really are in agreement, or they are validating why now we have this panel that we have in terms of the panel of these different designated groups chair, because as I started by saying, it becomes difficult to implement economic empowerment programs or even subcontracting, if we want to put it that way, if there is no an orderly process, right? So it was for this reason that we said, no, let's get out there, get these companies through a fair process, have them in our operations, so that it is then easy to monitor who is working where, who's not working where, who's doing what, and not in the space. I think what in terms of the legal prescripts or implementation, you would have noted, Chair, that in fact, as a department, we want to move beyond even the 30% subcontracting, because what we are saying is that if you can develop a contractor development program, you are then allowed by law to set out some of the budget that you will say this budget is allocated towards the empowerment of these companies. The only thing that is important is that you need to have those companies having gone through a transparent process, so that it does not become an issue of how did you identify company A and not company B. And it was for that process, it was for that reason that we went through that rigorous process to identify these companies, evaluate them, and ensure that they meet the set minimum requirements. I think it is important also to mention that, when you go through a rigorous process, it then allows you to ensure that whoever is in the space and really is interested in being a business in human settlements then responds to the opportunity. Where I remember last year when we started our briefing sessions, what Honorable Chair is referring to, Amadela Ngobona, they were part of the companies who were part of the process, and it was made clear that this is a process which is fair and transparent. And these companies are companies that come really from the ground. So most of them, you will find that they fall in these different groupings. So even when there could be maybe a situation where some of the groups would want to say, no, but how did this company get this subcontracting work? You can then say, no, this company is. And then through that, we are hoping that we would not have these issues with some of the companies, that some of the process and our projects being stopped. So what we as a department, in terms of monitoring, as we are also developing a rotation policy where we will monitor all the companies. So when we allocate your work, you obviously then move to the bottom of the list, because we want to ensure that in the next 3 years, all companies that are in the panel will try and satisfy them as much as possible. So the rotation policy will ensure that we monitor all the work that we are doing and ensure that whatever monies that would have been allocated for the empowerment of these companies, they are spent as envisaged. Like I said, I think obviously because we went through an open and fair process, Chair. So from the start, the process is very transparent. Whoever has gone through the evaluations and is recommended to the adjudication, it is a company that is compliant. And obviously then once we finalize the rotation policy, it will also drill in on issues of transparency. So going forward, there won't be an issue where someone asks, how did you allocate to this company and not this one? Because from the onset, to ensure that it is transparent and fair. Yes, obviously, Chair, we will share the strategy once it's finalized. I think today what we're doing is just to share some of the emerging proposals from the engagements and the draft strategy. Present the entire strategy and it can be scrutinized by your meeting, Chair. And maybe during the presentation, it did not come out quite strongly in terms of the bulk buying, but in all our programs, we are aligned with what is happening throughout the province. So what we want to do, and we've been working closely with the Department of Economic Development, is to ensure that through their district warehousing program, we can link, once we finalize the evaluation of the material manufacturers, we can then link those with the district warehouses so that they can also access market from areas where they live. But obviously, I mean, we also have to be mindful of the fact that it will not always be the case that all districts have projects at the same time. So we should be, adaptable to the fact that some of the manufacturers would have to look for markets in districts that they are not there. So we would not want to get to a point where we look this to say it has to be at the, you have to supply only at your district, but looking at where you find economic opportunities, you can then move to that to find the market there. Fronting, we obviously rely on the existing system. So as part of the evaluation, we look at our CSD reports, which would then give you the ownership patterns of companies, and in line with the precondition, that what then gets approved. So yeah, that's how we try and safeguard against fronting. All companies that are in our panel are companies that are either 51% owned by Black people, African in particular, and obviously the prescribed designated groups. Chair, in terms of pillars, I thought that we were sharing that in terms of the bigger scheme of things, those are the pillars that we want to achieve in terms of economic transformation. And as a department, I'm sure there would have been time where we shared what we are doing in terms of the internships, the graduate development programs, which really are more, and graduate mentorship are more focused on the last pillar, on the emerging professionals in the sector. Because what we want to say is that all those who are finalizing or at the tertiary education and in the sector, they get supported so that when they come out, then they can be in the space. But also over and above that, we are also looking at the economic participation. And it is for this reason, I think you will see in one of the panels, in the procurement through panels, you will see, Chair, that we have a list of companies who are either 51 Black owned, who are within the planning space. And those are professionals that we want to build in terms of your engineering, geotech professionals, and as such. So we are looking at the emerging professionals, both from the employment point of view within the department, but also in terms of economic participation from the planning and engineering side of things. Yes, I think, as I said, we are obviously aware of the fact that all that we need to do needs to be budgeted for. In fact, Chair, to share that when we started these programs, we fortunately had support from our executive authority, and we have budgeted for this. And with the proposals that we're making and the engagements we're having with the NHFC and APSA, we are hoping we can leverage more financial resources to ensure that the trainings and capacity building programs can be financed and implemented. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much for your responses. I just need to be clear that I understand you. So this is not something that is taking a place already. You are still sort of a brainstorming session, am I right?
Okay, so
am I right?
In terms of, so Chair, in terms of incubation, we have finalized the process in terms of the panel. So that is with the adjudication, and it should we should advertise sometime this month or early next month. In terms of material supply, that is at the second stage of the draft. So that's where inputs are. And the procurement through channels, there we've appointed those companies. And I think in some cases, we may have to look for the reports, but work has been allocated and there's work happening on the ground. Thank you very much, Chair.
No, thank you very much. I think it's enlightening. I think on the side of the legislature, what we need to do is just to keep an eye on the programs that are on ground as a result of this program. We have an interest in seeing its success. So I think for us, we just to monitor that. But I must actually, HOD, as Mr. Nkonzo was starting to talk, I remember that there was a very heated debate on the radio about RET being used as a tool to siphon state money and or to legitimize corruption. In fact, I want to caution and actually echo the sentiments by the Honorable Mtshali in one of our meetings to say we are not going to be supporting anything that wants to, that sort of clothes itself as a machinery to transform the economy of our country, yet its main intention is to corrupt the state. So I am cautioning against the dangers of using the RT tool, yet a very noble tool to advance equity and equality in our society. We are not going to allow it to be exposed to risk of corruption. So we are, as the portfolio committee, going to be very close to it. As I've said, that there is a view in the public, and once you don't address that, it becomes gospel truth. So we must also, as the legislature, improve our oversight so that what had started as a very good and a noble discussion and intention to better the lives of the previously disadvantaged peoples is not really exploited for the select few. That will just be my caution and my advice to the department. Thank you very much, Mr. Nkonzo. Let's move to the land parcel strategy presentation. HOD, who's taking us through the land assembly strategy.
Mr. Lindan Khoza, Chair, or one of his team members? Thanks.
Thank you, Shweti. Through you, Chair. Good afternoon again. Okay, Chair, I'll try to be really quick on this one. Maybe what I would like to point out is the land assembly strategy is not a standalone strategy. It is some sort of offshoot of what I presented earlier on. It's one of the tools, the sub-tools, to further the approach of the master special framework. But one other thing, Chair, maybe before I go through the document that I need to indicate is this report does not cover what was raised by Honorable Tulu earlier on, the release of land in the ownership of the state and also devolution. Maybe through you, Chair, maybe in future meeting we can deal with that because it's an extensive matter on its own, the issue of land in the possession of the state and devolution of land. So that again, Chair and the committee can appreciate what is involved in this land to be devolved. Because if you're getting maybe bitten pieces of the information from maybe the municipality on our side, we will not appreciate the complications around this land. So in matters dealing with the land in the possession of the state, I will maybe plead to the committee to maybe allow an opportunity in future to just deal with that. It's a bigger matter even than this one that I'm addressing today. Having said that, Chair, I indicated earlier on that this is a more to assist the navigation tool, which is the master plan. Chair, maybe just to indicate earlier on, you know, the roughly 2 decades of democracy since 94, especially as KZN, we're pushing numbers mostly production in the rural areas. There were instances where we're dealing with land in urban areas, mostly it was involving land made available by municipalities. But the reality of urbanization could not be ignored anymore. And the municipality could not keep up in making land available so that you can deal with the issues of informal and all these other programs. So the department had to go an extra mile and have a concerted effort to say, within our plan to drive human settlement to a certain destination, we must have a concerted effort to deal with the issue of making land available. So if you can move to slide number 4. Slide number 4, Chair, we indicate that the principal plan is what I presented earlier on, the Human Settlement Master Special Plan, which define what is going to be a node, what is going to be a high order settlement. Then within what has been identified by that, then we move in and identify what land is. Then
we have
this
lost
becomes
we lost you for a while.
Okay, Chair, my back. I'm on slide 4, Chair. If the Secretary can move to slide 4. Chair, I'm on slide 4, just to
Next
indicate
up, please,
that
William, slide 4, which talks about the contextual strategy background.
yes, Chair. Just to indicate that, Chair, as I indicated that this is a tool to make that master plan possible by dealing with the matter of land assembly. Previously, in urban areas, we'll do projects on land made available by the municipalities. But with the pressure of urbanization and the department's approach in trying to fast track informal settlements upgrade, RDP, and other programs, we saw it fit to have a strategy to try and acquire land in private hands and bring in what we're doing so that we get the law. So that's why we have this strategy. So the strategy, again, is not the standalone. It's helping what we're discussing earlier on, and it is targeting these programs to enable the program of informal settlement eradication, the densification and integration of settlement, the whole issue of special planning, location of new housing, inner city and urban renewal programs, and also enhancing of our housing products, the instrument. So we zoom in to make sure that we have this diversity. We deal with the issue of making sure that those priority human settlement areas, if we go in there, find that the whole gazetted area is in private hands, we try and negotiate to make sure that we have that project as being driven and between the agreement between us and the municipality. Chair, the next slide indicates the program, how the program has been run. I'm on slide, yes, since the year 2014-2013. What I'm going through there is just presented for information. By and large, what is where we've acquired the land, it's been paid for, and the projects are running. And in some pieces of land, the project has been finalized. So it's just to be transparent to indicate that since 2013-14, that's the table of land we acquired during 2014-2015, a total of 346 hectares for this program. During year 2014-2015, we acquired a total of 693 hectares. Moving to 2015-2016, next slide, that's the next slide. Then we acquired a total of 942 hectares in those municipalities. Then in 2016-2017, we acquired a total of 120 hectares. And as indicated, Chair, with these ones, there are projects running in these pieces of land that we've acquired already. If we move to slide 8, these are properties that we've identified in our pipeline along the line with the direction of the Master Special Framework. They're at different levels of feasibility, yes. The ones that have been completed along this schedule is number 1, Newcastle, then number 2, Umdoni, and number 6, Ndubatuba. 8 and 11, they will be finalized during this financial year because it's budgeted for. The balance of the list, we don't just go out there and buy, Chair, by something that is developable. So it's at various stages of feasibility so that we can recommend to NEP a decision that is well informed whether the land will be developable before we buy. So, and the whole issue of land assembly takes roughly 2 to 3 years to finalize. So this is going forward. Obviously, this is a fluid pipeline. If we present this next year, maybe some of the properties may have fallen away because they were not feasible. Maybe new candidates would be in line with the special master plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khoza. That was quick and brief. Honourable members, any questions from the presentation? If there are no questions, let me ask whether this land is in your asset register as the Department of Human Settlements. I just want to be clear on that. I see that you have listed your years from 2015, 2016, 2016-17. You have acquired a lot of land for different kinds of projects, but just a few which are not explained as to why you had to acquire those properties. And I think for the sake of our oversight, for instance, in Makulusi, you acquired portion 5 of the farm, Velthavon, the number 284. What was the purpose? I think what's missing in the slide, the slide, it's a matrix of some sort, table, will be the purpose as to what acquired, because this helps us. You are correct, it's sort of an offshoot for the master plan, but it's helpful just to see how much of this land which you acquire, these land parcels are improving and impacting the lives of our people. So what would be nice is just to know whether you are building, you're at a planning stage in relation to your Mfolozi area, the Salina farm, and what have you. Other than that, I think it's very helpful. I just want to know whether this is in your asset register or you acquired then and devolved to the municipalities. So from 16-17, from the presentation, am I right to reason that you have not bought any other land, you have not acquired any other land for the development of human settlements? Oh, no, I didn't pay attention to the next slide. Slide 8 answers my question. No, that's fine. Just answer to what I've asked you about in terms of the asset register, and also consider what we are raising in relation to knowing why the project, for instance, your 2018 is is clearly defined. That's beautiful. It's clear for the person who gets hold of this slide. We just say, okay, this is what they're doing, but slide 6 and 7 is not too detailed. So I'd like you just to improve on that at a later stage. Then you can send us. I think it's important also to know where those projects taking place, that they are at foundation stage, they are intermediate, they are almost coming up, the walls are there, or they are at procurement, we are roofing and what have you. I think that slide, we can grow it and get a lot of information for our oversight. That would be that, Mr. Khoza. There's a member who's raised his or her hand. Let me double check. This is Honorable Gumede. Welcome, Honorable Gumede. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I don't have a question, but it's just an area of concern. Maybe I've missed it, but in this master plan, I didn't see anything that deals with prevention of further informal settlements. Because while we are trying by all means to address this issue and house people, but new informal settlements keep on rising. Just yesterday, if I say yesterday, I mean during the by-elections on the 11th, there is a brand new informal settlement in Claywood in Durban. They are sitting on water, but because they know that they will be counted for human settlements as beneficiaries, they are there. I think in the master plan, it will be crucial that they look at the ways that the municipality should stop people forming more informal settlements. Thank you.
I think that's brilliant, Honorable Gumede. Mr. Khoza, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, maybe let me start with your matters to say, Chair, the years between 2015 and 2017 will update those slides, especially because those projects, you find that there's only really construction in some of them. I know we're economical with information, but in the next few days, we'll resubmit to Secretariat with more comprehensive information. On the issue of the asset register, Chair, I'll indicate that these personal plans are not in the department's asset register. Legislation, the department cannot spend money on private-owned land. So the reason why we go hard and go and acquire is to make sure that it changes hands from privately owned to the organ of state. So mostly what happens is we buy it on behalf of the municipality. Then if I can maybe expand on that, Chair, we buy a piece of land, maybe they say it's 100 hectares to build, let's say 1,000 houses. As we build the houses and we give it to owners, the ownership of individual sites go to the individual, the beneficiaries. But what is left over, that's the parks, the rivers, the roads, remain in quality, which is the normal order of things. Because as the department, we cannot bank land. Chair, I would like to digress here to make a point why it's important to deal with the issue of devolution and land in the occupation of the state. You will find that because previously in some municipality, they didn't finalize what we call stage 1 in this department planning. That's why we're dealing with title deeds. That's the reason why we're sitting with the land that want to devolve to the municipality. Had everything been done and tick all the boxes, we will be dealing with the issue of devolution. So that's why it's important, because when you buy the land, beneficiaries take what is theirs, whatever is less, that needs to be administered by municipality, because that's where they run their service corridor.
We are now not hearing you.
Chair,
Mr. Khoza, we've lost you. We've lost you. We lost you. You are still talking about the development of corridors.
Oh, yes. I'm saying, Chair, individual properties goes to beneficiaries, then the remainder of the land, which are road corridors and play areas and other properties, go to the municipalities, because under normal order of things, they have to be managed by the municipality. But I'm saying, Chair, when we get an opportunity to talk about devolution, we'll expand on these matters so that we can paint a picture of how it works. Okay, thank you, Chair. Then, Chair, on the issue raised by Honorable Kumede, Chair, again here, I will plead with the committee, maybe in future, I'll note more reports. We have a specific strategy on land invasion and occupation of land, so that maybe we can engage the commission on how we're dealing with that. Maybe for a resolution, maybe we can give an opportunity to come and just deal with that, because it's a bigger matter on its own. We will need to be given an opportunity to deal with that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think that land invasion strategy will consider it in the next meeting. Honorable Herricks.
Thank you,
Honorable Herricks.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I was covered a bit with regards to the infrastructure. Excuse me with the way I'm talking. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay, sure. No, I was covered a bit with the previous program on the SIACA program in the matter of, sorry, Honorable Chair. Very Honorable Chair, am I audible? I was covered a bit by the two honourable members. My concerns were with regards to the issues of the time frame, and Honourable Tulu covered me with regards to transparency, because it seemed like Mr. Ntonzi stated that there are challenges with regards to finalization with the material supply, but and also the issue of the material supply. So I think it's just that issue which he has covered. And also what is good is that he has stated that he needs, or the department will seek or is seeking assistance in that regard. So I'm quite covered. It was just on the RET program, but I'm covered, Honourable Chair. Thank you.
I now give Mr. Koza an opportunity. Okay, we are done. I think he is done with all that. I now give UNEST an opportunity to move the agenda so that we move to item 7.4.
Chilubane. Oh, let's deal with this one. Let's recruitment process, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'll deal with it. It's not a long presentation, Madam Chair. Just to give an update that we seek to is just that the department, obviously, we just give a small background, made the request for the approval of 14 posts, which was not approved but returned in April 2020 for review due to COVID-19 pandemic. So this is where it started, that in early this year, we requested to fill those 14 posts, but due to COVID-19 implications and budget cuts, they were returned back to us to say we needed to take into our regard, because you recall that even equity share was cut. It was not only HSTG, but even equity share. So in that setup, it was a matter of even indicating that reprioritize your post, reprioritize your budgets, and then come back to us. So we did that, and obviously, July 2020, we got back a feedback for those kind. So the submission was done for 53 posts to the Office of the Premier, and we got back feedback on the 3rd of September. So just to indicate that because of those kind of delays, you had those kind of issues taking a whole kind of delays in that regard. So the approved posts we've received, and they've been also been taken into consideration in terms of the budget cuts. But what is also a very kind of scary, there's further cards that we've been notified, even on the equitable church, which obviously, even in the case that even the increment that we are all supposed to be getting for this year will not be getting. So those are the issues that are having a bearing on some of these posts and even on the equitable shades. If we were...
You are cutting HOD?
It's the network, madam. We have a deep, we have tried to really sort this thing out. So I'm just indicating that currently what we are dealing with is the issue of saying if ever we're going to be told that tomorrow we need to pay back the employees their increment, we will not be having any money to pay. So those are the kind of issues that all of us have been saying to the Office of the Premier. Obviously, it means we'll be needing assistance in that regard, even if it means we need to pay some of the monies back to the workers. As much as we've budgeted, but the more we're having these budget cuts, the more it's really eating up on our own kind of savings in that regard. So I just wanted to indicate that even some of these posts, what's going to happen is that when we come back to really, we'll need to reprioritize further reprioritize even these ones that have been approved, so that at least we are within our budgets. That's what I'm trying to indicate, Madam Chair. If you can move to the next slide. As I've indicated, that we have categorized this post into those elements. Phase 1 critical posts were advertised on the 15th of October, and this is where we are at now. And obviously, we've been advised by the executive authority to put on hold up until we finalize the structure, because obviously she feels that we should be putting the structure before we even fill some of the positions that we are dealing with. Yeah, so that's where we are at, and obviously structure is where issues that we are finalizing in that regard. So in terms of the other posts that we have finished, the like general manager planning and all of those, we have filled those posts. It's just these ones that we are left with now. But as I'm indicating, Chair, that is this budget cuts that we are experiencing that are really going to even mean that we need to reprioritize further our posts, even as we reprioritize our budget for HSTG on the project side. So I thought, let me just highlight those elements. Yeah, that's where we are at. But if we are really giving a go-ahead, it's a matter of us having to push for selection committees, because those are really in our radar, and we'll be able to manage this process going forward. But the main worry is how to sustain patients with so much of budget cuts that are lacking in our midst. So that's what one wanted to indicate, especially as part of this presentation. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much, HOD. Yeah, that last parting shot is rather depressing, you know, the sustainability of the organization in the light of the cuts and the pending cuts maybe in the future. Honorable members, are there any questions in relation to 7.4? May I ask, in relation to the organizational structure, I'm not saying this for the first time, and it is a concern. What is the hold up there? Why are we not able? Why is the department not able to deal with the organizational structure so that we know where we stand in terms of the numbers that you need to perform your housing mandates, you know? What is the problem, HOD?
Madam, and also honourable members, it's not a problem as such, but obviously it's a consultative process. You know, between me and you can run this thing and finish and clap, but definitely we work as a collective. There are various structures that we've got to go through. for it to be signed off. So those are the issues that we are dealing with. Because from our side, because we're also using an independent party, when we deal with the structure, let's be honest, things become emotional. There are issues that are always coming up. So the MEC felt that we needed someone from outside to really assist in that regard, because definitely she was getting various inputs at various quarters saying there are various kind of structures and implications that are
we are encouraged on it. There's absolutely nothing frustrating like to be in a legislature with the department. You start the term of parliament, the department says we're still dealing with the organizational structure. Until after 5 years, you realize that it was not done. We want Department of Human Settlements to fall into that category of departments. Can we now move to 7.6, 7.5?
Madam Chair, would request Ms. Chulvane to take us through 7.5.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor's hand is up. I don't see Ms. Chulvane actually.
Honorable Chair, honorable members,
yes.
No, I think Ms. Chulvane, she said she is driving and she requested me to take the honorable members through on this report because she is driving. And as I'm also, we work together on this particular matter.
You can proceed, Ndosi.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Good afternoon, honorable members, HOD, MEC, and colleagues. I think this report, I think, is just the purpose of the presentation is to provide a status of on this matter and the action plan for these on these invaded units in Alu Ridge Social Housing Project. The next slide being the background on this whole matter started. I think I'm on page 4 now. The background in the whole thing is these units that were illegally occupied by the military veterans formations that were happened in February 2018. And then after that, there were meetings with the leadership of the three formations by way of resolving the matter. Also, at some stage, the previous portfolio committee had a meeting with the the leadership of the military veterans formation to discuss how the way forward and how to resolve the matter. And there were also further engagements, consultation meetings by way of trying to with the invaders to resolve the matter. And the matter has also been reported at the Umsunduze war room as well. That was as last year. The matter was reported as well in the war room of Umsunduze. Initially, there was engaging with the members of the military veterans formations. The department suggested that, and it was agreed that we'll undertake a profiling of the invaded units, so that the department get an understanding that who are there and what is their status in terms of housing or human settlement in their areas. That process was started, and then the process could not be completed because in between the military veterans refused to say no, they don't want this process to continue. And as a result, out of the 261 flats that were invaded in Alu Ridge, only 150 people were profiled as indicated. We'll indicate on the table below as to how these 150 people were analyzed in terms of their status. I think I'm on number 6 on the invaded flats, the analysis blocks, which shows the blocks. These are the number of blocks. These are the blocks that are currently invaded, and then the number of who are in each block, and then it further tells us, because once we've analyzed, we've got the name of the person, the ID number. We went to HSS to check what is their status in terms of benefiting from a human settlement or housing in the past. Out of there, for instance, in block 4, you will find that there were 18 people who were profiled. Or maybe, yes, still on that one. 18 people, and those that are approved on other projects, like people who benefited from other BNG housing projects in their areas, there were 5. On the military veterans project, there was 0. There is no one who approved. And then those that are declined in the military veterans project, I think even on HSS, there are 5 of them. And then those that are not on HSS, which means that these people have not benefited in any of the housing benefits from government. There are 8 of them. Those that own private property, 0, and those that could not be verified, there is 0. So which means 18 people we've been able to categorize. And then if we go down with the block 5, 7, 8, 9, and 10, those are the blocks that we were able to do e-profiling, which gave us the number of 150 out of 261. This is what we were aiming to do if we were to profile all the 261 people that invaded. So, but unfortunately, it could not happen. The next slide, which is the graph. The graph is just telling us the percentage of how many people. It's further analyzing the above slide, which talks to how many people were declined, how many people are approved in other projects, how many people are approved in the military veterans project, declined on military veterans project, not on HSS own property, which I think on own property, we found that there are 2 people who own private property, because out of the checking, those that could not be verified, it's 5%. The next slide, talking to what is the current status. The current status now, it shows that there has been no movement, that much of a movement in terms of resolving this matter, because the status quo has not changed, because the invaders are still there. And then what has happened is that even when the Social Housing Institute tried to go to court, they got the eviction order, but they did not implement it at the time, and they were hoping that issues were going to be resolved out of court. Now the challenge is that they had a financial strain, capital city, because there are these 261 units that are supposed to be rented. They are not rented, and those people there, they are using water, electricity without paying anything. And then the social housing, the capital housing, the Social Housing Institute, they entered into a business rescue on the 24th of September 2019 in accordance with the Companies Act. That's where they are at the moment. Moving on in terms of the current status, they went back to court again. The Social Housing Institute, they went to court on the 3rd of June, and then the interim order was granted against unlawful occupiers in Alu Ridge. And then the final order is currently being dealt with. In this situation where the matter is now at court, the Social Housing Institute is an applicant. And then they've listed a whole range of AMA respondents. But the illegal occupiers, they are cited as the first respondent. And the municipality is a second respondent. And the department, Human Settlement, we as the department, we are cited as the 8th respondent because there are other respondents before the department, which talks to also National Department of Human Settlement, the Department of Military Veterans, SAPS. There is a whole range of, and we are cited as the 8th respondent. In terms of the court process, the department, as a department, we filed the notice saying that we will, through our legal section, we filed the notice to say we will abide by the court decision on this matter. And in this process, the legal representatives of the illegal occupants there in Alu Ridge, which is the military veterans, they requested to meet with the department, and we had a meeting with their representatives, and the first, and then what we agreed was that because the matter was going to sit in court on the 6th of November, which it said, and there was an order issued by the court in terms of what we need to do, because the matter will also sit on the 18th and the 19th of February 2021. And the court directed all respondents that are relevant to do. One of the things was that the first respondent, which is the occupiers of Alu Ridge, they needed to provide a department and the municipality on the 16th of November, which was yesterday, with a list to provide specific information as recorded in paragraph 2.3 of the court order. That paragraph 2.3 of the court order, it talks to the profiling, that when you are doing profiling, these are some of the things that we do. I think I was still on 10, on slide 10. That it's saying that once the
We are now lost, Mr. Kele. Asakuzwa, Mr. Kele. Mr. Kele. Mr. Kele?
Yes, Chair, sorry, I got cut. One of the issues is that it's saying that on the mediator needs to come on board once we've done profiling and we verify all the occupants. There needs to be a mediator. Avril Potgieter will be there to mediate before the court date, which is the 19th and 18th, the 18th and the 19th, of the options that we are going to come up with once eviction takes place of all those people. So issue a list of those people so that we verify them and find them. Who are these people? What is it that we can do for them? And then we can discuss that with the mediator. That needs to happen before by the 1st of February 2021. Also, in terms of the we need all court directed that we need to file our reports by the 8th of 2021. That is arising from profiling. We need to come up with a consolidated report that out of profiling that we've undertaken for all the 261 occupiers, what came out of that. They need a report. And also the alternative accommodation of emergency housing arising from our constitutional mandate, saying that once people they are evicted, they cannot be thrown straight. There needs to be an alternative accommodation for those people. Also, the issue of the availability of funds that talks to how are we going to provide this emergency accommodation or alternative accommodation. Are there any funds? And also the option of rental or the possibility of purchasing the units. But being this project a social housing project, there is no way that these can be bought because this is a rental stock. But this was what was said by in the court order. Also, more further affidavits, they need to be filed by the 15th, so that by the date of the court, going back to court. Also, no further occupants may invade. The court directed that no further invasions to be. The next slide, Chair and honorable members, that's talking to a financial status quo of the loss that the Social Housing Institute have suffered in terms of this invasion. It's by way of the number of units that are invaded, that are not rented, they are not making any money out of them. There is a loss of rental over this. The electricity that is being used, loss of the utilities over this period, the added security that they are providing, also the default that they have done in terms of with the repayment of the loan from NHFC, National Housing Finance Corporation. Also, the cost of eviction, also the current revenue in terms of rental collection, and also all these activities that have had impact on as a result of this invasion. This is what has been highlighted, that they've suffered on this one. But also, slide number 14, we're talking of a possible solution or housing interventions, and talking specifically to the people who have invaded. Currently, Chair, Honorable Chair, and honorable members, we have people who are approved on the military veterans project. Those people, there are 7 of them that are occupying there. They are approved. They've gone through every process. But out of these 7 people, 3 of them have already been housed at Glenwood, which is one of the military veterans project that is being built. 19 units have been built there. And then 4 of those people have been allocated at Cobbsville sites, where currently the municipality is busy with the finalization of approval of building plans for those. So those 7 people who are approved, they have 3 of them are there. But what is also surprising is that these 3 who have taken the occupation of their houses, they never returned the keys of the 3 units, of the 3 flats that they were occupying. 41 of them, 49 are those people that were declined when we were on the HSS, but we have since on this engaged with the Department of Military Veterans, who have come out with who have given us a response by way of saying who are those that are on the database of DMV and who are those that are not on the DMV database. Also, the 59 people who are not on the DMV database, it was agreed with the leadership of all formations in the province that those people who are still having issues with their status in the database DMV, they can accept the normal 40 square meter houses, and then we can deal with them following the principles of OSS. But when we when we profile them and we find that they are destitute, and then we can look at them in terms of OSS approach for those 59 people. And then the 2 people were found to have owning a property. We did search, and then we found that they are owning a property. And then those people, they can be assisted in terms of consolidation, because you find that some of them, it's not actually a house. They own a site. They have a site. Then that's when we bring in a consolidation subsidy instrument just to build for them. Once they are approved, they are confirmed by DMV, and they are approved on HSS. That is talking to the people that was the 150 people that were 25 of them. We found that these people are appearing on HSS as have benefited from housing projects in their areas where they come from. The 8 people, they could not be verified. They still need to be profiled. And then out of the 261, Chair, we still need to undertake a profiling of 111 people to make the 261. That is how far we are. And then the slide 17 is talking to in terms of the military veterans projects beneficiation. These are some of the things. It's a 450 square meter house that we built to the qualifying beneficiaries. Also the consolidation subsidy on those people who own sites. And then also one of them, those who are having bonds and could not pay their bonds. Also, if they are on the military veterans database, they are assisted in terms of settling the bond. But that settling of a bond will be equal to them. It needs to be equal to the subsidy that they qualify for. Also, the sites, the donation of sites, of the service sites for those who needs to build for themselves and cannot be on the category of getting the full subsidy. To this end, this is just showing that here in Msunduzi, the 19 houses that have practically completed, of which 3 of the invaders also have benefited. There are 20 sites in Cobbsville, which I've talked to in terms of finalizing the allocation that's been done, but also the issue of approving the building plans and NHBRC enrollment before the contractor will move to site. And there are also further 23 sites that are serviced, that are ready. They were made available by Msunduzi municipality, and the allocation of those sites is underway and will be finalized once the contractor who is moving there to build the houses. Also on the side of the project, military veterans houses, under the program of service sites program, the municipality was given an amount of 8.6 million by the department to do the sites. Some of the sites are there in Beasley. Some of the sites are also in Edendale and in Bali, and those sites that are busy, planning is underway, and the servicing of sites will be underway, of which amongst those sites, the military veterans also will benefit from those sites. So there is a program of these sites by the municipality. Also, Chair, the issue of the military veterans, we have found that some of the military veterans, this slide talks to the 3, sorry, the number there, I think there is a typo, there are not 2, there are 3 of the military veterans that already have sites. Also with the 23, I've spoken to this in terms of the 23 sites that are ready. It's only the question of approving AMA plans by the municipality and allocate, because when you are approving the plan, we link it with the owner, the individual, the owner of the site, and then the contractor will and build. Also, those who are not on HSS will have to be profiled, and we may do the means of finding through working with the municipality of giving them normal BNG houses while their issues are being sorted out between the military veterans and the DMV, Department of Military Veterans. Also, in terms of instances where the list of invaders is either verified by DMV, we have done that, the 49, we have done the verification. All what we need to do is that we complete the profiling, which I think in between the other not want profiling to be done, but as court on the 6th, we have requested from the legal representatives of the military of the occupiers to submit the list so that we talk on the same list. They have submitted, I've just received today the list, but when I verified the list, how many people there, they have given us 169 people, the legal. So it's not 261. And then our legal section was going to send an email to the legal representative of them that they are representing the occupiers, but what they've given us here, it's not, it's only 169. But also, Chair, let me just, in conclusion, to say that one of the things, the realities on Alu Ridge is that not all occupiers are from Sunduzi. There are some of the occupiers there who are from other municipality areas, such as Mkambatini. When we engaged with the zone of MKMVA in Mkambatini, they said they've got 5 members living there, but also they are indicating that they would like to have their houses built where they come from at home. So it will mean that once profiling will assist us to know that this person is going to, where are they going to. But also another thing, Chair, in conclusion, is that we have, through the frustrations that we had with the poor performance of the implementing agent, the department is finalizing. We have appointed 3 contractors now that are going to carry out with it. 2 will be focusing in eThekwini, that's where the bulk of them, and one contractor will be focusing in other municipalities where we are finalizing all the paperwork now, the agreements and everything. And now that there is going to be a short break for Christmas, we are targeting that come January, the contractors will be moving on site or on all those and continue with the program of the Military Veterans Project. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kele, for the update on the matters pertaining to Alu Ridge. Are there any questions from the honorable members? Honorable Gumet and Honorable Herricks, in that order.
Thank you, Chair. Just for interest's sake, how old are these military veterans? Our democracy is only 26, and you get a military veteran that is 30, 35. Just clarify something for us.
Thank you, Honorable Kumete. Honorable Herricks.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, my query here is on slide 15 and the 59 people that it says here not appearing in HSS, and then the 59, these people will have to be considered on the OSS. So I'd like to find out, has the department been considerate, or have they considered the existing applicants already? And then also on slide 16, I'd just like to find out if there's a reason for these numbers that they have. They have 25 approved, 8 could not be verified, and the 111 that could not be verified or not profiled. Is there a reason or an explanation for these given numbers? If so, what is it, and what is the plan and the time frame? Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Herricks. Honourable Mayor.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just a quick few things. I'm partly covered by the Honourable Gumede in her question, and a large part of our problem is that there still seems to not be a proper list nationally on who actually are the military veterans, and that makes it very difficult for us to provide services, I think. And that's something that we need to take up with our counterparts nationally, because until we have that, I just sometimes feel people are claiming to be military veterans, and we are grateful to those who have served time to bring freedom and democracy to the country. But I think there are also chances, and it's difficult for us to then weed out the chances from the real veterans. Secondly, I just want to know what intervention will there be from the province to help this company, who is now losing out on quite a lot of money, and for no fault of their own. And then lastly, Chairperson, I just also always feel a bit concerned if we bend over backwards to assist people who, at the end of the day, are lawbreakers. And I was wondering, these are impacting on people who are supposed to be living in these flats, and what is currently happening to those people who are the legitimate people who are supposed to be living in these flats, and what assistance have been given to them so far. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Kulu.
Thanks, Chair. I wanted just to check on two issues here. On the verification, is there any contact between the department and the DMV where they will just to make sure the verifications are done properly? Who does the verification? And then two, what is the plan going forward? I heard you spoke about the sites that have been given by the council, and then they are already being allocated to military veterans. Now, you said some did not even return those keys. Now, going forward, how are you going to control that? Do you have any plan on controlling this not to happen again? I just want to get that those two answers. Thank you.
Thank you, honourable members. Just one quick one from me. It's in terms of fighting this litigation in court again on February. One presumes that this is money you had not necessarily budgeted for. I didn't see it in the budget. I didn't see litigation, so I'm very much interested in terms of where are you sourcing it from, which line item are you sourcing from this money? Just that the rest of the questions were just straightforward, and I thank members for asking those questions.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable members. I will start with a question on the age group. I think when we did analysis on those units that we were able to do profiling, we found that some of the people, the youngest people was 23 years. That was the youngest, someone born in 1995. And there are those that were born in 1987, 1978. So they're quite young, the 30s. That's what was also surprising also to us. I think they are young people. And then the argument in the formations when we are asking this question of saying military veterans born in 1995. And then they will just cite that there are those people here in KZN that were called self-defense unit members. And then from a perspective and in the policy of DMV, those people are not catered for. And there is still a discussion between our military veterans and those, because at that level with DMV. And that's why we are saying, while those people, if they are deserving and they are destitute, because part of the funding on this program, the other portion comes from HSDG, anyway, if someone is a normal South African, they can be considered, and that's what we can go as far as human settlement, because anyway, it's money that is. If those people are deserving and they are also qualifying, so the issue of these ages, also there are many of the young people that are there. Also, in terms of the list nationally, and as Honorable Member mentioned, the list of military veterans that are verified, we get the list from DMV. Plus, the state has said, no, these are not on the database, and these are on the. Once a person is on the database, then we start the process of HSS, then on HSS approval process. That's how we deal with it. Correct? The list, we don't have a straightforward list even from DMV. As and when they give us, when we give them in those, we give them in that order. Also, we do have a contact with DMV because we as Human Settlement, we are just an implementing agent of DMV because Human Settlement mandate is Department of Human Settlement. So that's why, but we are implementing a DMV policy, even in terms of qualification criteria. We are following their, we are following DMV criteria. Also, in terms of a plan, of saying a plan, what do we have a plan of controlling that there are no further invasion there. In terms of those that were initially invaded in February 20, they have not been vacated, because even those 3 military veterans that we gave, they have their houses, 3 of them in Glenwood. They never returned the keys. Instead, they put other people into those flats. But also in terms of controlling, because in a normal situation where the people are vacating the flats, they are leaving the flat, the Social Housing Institute have put a security to ensure that those flats are being vacated by people who have been renting. They are not invaded. So there is a security that is put there. And in terms of Honorable Member Harris, in terms of 15, those numbers of 59. 59, when we did profiling, we found that these people, 59 people, they are not on DMV database. They are not also, they've never benefited from any housing project. They have never benefited, they are not on HSN. So it's people that if they qualify, then they can be considered. There are 59 of them. The 2 people, we found that it says when you do the deed search, they own property. And when we do the further check, you find that they have armor sites, which they own, but there is no building on those sites. So those are the analysis that we were doing. And also even on slide 16, we were talking of 25. 25 of them, when we punch idea on the HSS, you find that this person has benefited, he's got a house, maybe in Edendale, he's got a house, maybe in Greytown, he has benefited. And then what we engage the person is say, why did you leave your house and come to invade here? Because you've got a house. So it's those people, those analyses. 8 of them was that they could not be profiled. When we were continuing with the profiling, we found that we were stopped and then we could not profile them. So they will need to be so that we get exactly, because we did not get our IDs up. And then the 111, those that were not profiled at all, they will need to be profiled. And now that we've been directed by the court, those are of the issues that we are trying to work with the people, but all the ultimate objective is to have these people moving out of this side of these flats, but also cannot be thrown away. That's why we're engaging with them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kende. Thank you for updating us and also for bringing us to speed in relation to the issue.